Hello everyone, Matsimus here, thank you for joining me today. So recently I just did a visit to the Bomber Command Museum of Canada, and what a hell of a place it is. It is local around my area and it's extremely impressive to have a museum of this type within my vicinity. And recently I was travelling up to another event which was nothing to do with this, and all of a sudden I thought, you know what, let's have a quick look at this museum again, because I have been there before with my father when he visited from the UK, and this time I actually saw the Lancaster outside of its hangar, and it got me thinking, I wonder what it's doing outside the hangar. Maybe they're just doing a showcase of it outside in the nice sunshine. No, it was something even more impressive. They were doing a full 4-engine run-up, ground run-up, and here it is, absolutely beautiful. there you have it, guys, the 4-engine start on this absolutely beautiful aircraft. I've got to admit, when I went to this visit the first time going around the museum, it was extremely impressive, but when you actually see one of these things running all 4 of those beautiful Merlin engines up to only 30% power, it's unreal. I can't even describe to you the sense of pride you have in your nation and other nations during that conflict. And the pure fear that those boys must have been having, and that, you know, the environment they were going into in these aircraft must have just been terrifying. And when I step inside this aircraft, which you're going to see any second here, it just goes to show the bravery and commitment of what these air crewmen and pilots went through on a day-to-day basis. I can't even imagine being a young pilot or crewman inside these aircraft, going into war, going into battle, not knowing if you're going to come home. And it's an extremely, almost eerie experience stepping into this aircraft, knowing that, of course, maybe this aircraft did not take part in combat itself, but those aircraft out there that did, it really brought to mind, you know, the fear of being on these aircraft of, you know, yes, you're in an aircraft 20,000 feet above the air, but at any moment your aircraft could be blasted out of the sky. And when you actually start walking through this aircraft and seeing the different stations and the size of the thing and how fragile really it is, I mean, you're talking about very thin bits of metal protecting you from the outside world. It's extremely nerve-wracking to know that those poor boys back then had to go through this, and it's also extremely humbling knowing how brave and how determined our nations were in fighting against the Nazis back in the Second World War. And I'm just really so privileged and honoured to see this aircraft in all its glory, and it's the most impressive thing, one of the most impressive things I've seen in my entire life, having to see this thing actually run up and experiencing walking through it. And I just thought I'd share it with you guys. And honestly, if you ever have the ability to take part or even go down to see these engines being run up, or even just go see the museum, I would strongly suggest doing so. I had an absolute blast going through there. Even just, you know, seeing the museum itself with the aircraft not running the engines, it's just a really powerful experience to kind of show you what the Bomber Command crews went through back in that day. And it just blows my mind, the bravery of what these men did during this conflict in the Second World War. And just, you know, I mean, being in this gunnery position, you're sitting there and you think, good God, like, you are one of only a few that are defending this crew from potentially being engaged from hostile aircraft. There's not really much between you and them. Interestingly enough, at the same time of which these engine runs were being started, the actual model show that was going on in the background was quite interesting to go take a look at too. And I thought I'd browse along the aisle that made the most sense to me, the armoured vehicles. And yes, it was an extremely impressive collection of models. I myself do not make models, but I know a number of my viewers and fans / supporters do. So here you go, here's a wide selection of armoured fighting vehicles that have been placed onto this model table. And actually, some of them were very intricate and very well painted, a very impressive setup there. There are also some other rather interesting models there at the show, including the Millennium Falcon, which had some rather debatable figures in the cockpit of it, to be honest with you. But I did find some models that pertain to me, including the beautiful Mark I tank and multiple modern main battle tanks on the model front. It was really interesting to see, but the most impressive thing was really seeing those Merlin engines firing up and actually being able to climb aboard this beast and have a look around of how it would be being one of those crewmen on this aircraft. Of course, the Victoria Cross pilot there, which is an extremely brave story, was also rather touching, and as I mentioned before, really did bring to home what these brave people did back on these aircraft in the day. Overall, I just had such a blast going to this museum. I've been to it before, but seeing it again like this, with the aircraft actually running, was extremely impressive. I was also able to see the Snowbirds aircraft and jump into the pilot seat of that aircraft, and also play around in the bomb bays a little bit of the Lancaster, which I had probably a little bit too much fun with. Also found that potentially my fat rolls compare to the tyres of these aircraft quite well. But guys, once again, please go check out this museum. It is a lot of fun. If you're able to get over to Alberta, Canada, then come check it out. I do believe there's only a few Lancasters out there that are still flying, and only a few that are actually still running these beautiful Merlin engines. So if you have the chance, go check it out. And if not, well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for joining me today on this fantastic tour of the Bomber Command Museum of Canada, and I hope you have a wonderful day. As always, please leave me a like and a comment. Let me know what you think of today's video. If you have any stories about anywhere you visited that were really interesting I could maybe do in the future, let me know. Another video coming out in the near future here of me going to the Military Museum of Calgary, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. And if you do wish to support my channel, please go check out my Patreon account. It'd be really appreciated. And thanks again for joining me. All the best. Bye bye.